Hello, this is Miss Tyne here with your math lesson for today. For today, we're going to be talking about the sandwich problem. For this problem, I'm going to tell you a story, and then we're going to try to solve this problem together. And after we do that, you're going to have some time to explore solving this problem on your own with your Seesaw activity. So you'll turn in your solution in Seesaw. So I'm going to start off by telling you a story. And this story is about triplets, Abby, Brissa, and Carrie, and their babysitter, Daniel. Now, Daniel, this story is about Daniel coming to their house to babysit them on a Saturday. So Daniel, who was 14, had a job every Saturday babysitting the 7-year-old triplets next door. He liked Abby, Brissa, and Carrie and called them the ABC girls. But he never knew what to expect because the three of them were always getting into some kind of mischief, especially when he was there. One Saturday he arrived at the triplets' house around noon. Mrs. Brown said, "Daniel, would you please make lunch for the girls and call them in? They haven't eaten yet." Daniel said, "Sure thing, Mrs. Brown. I'll take care of it." As soon as she left, Daniel poked his head out the back door and called to the triplets. "Hey, ABC girls, what would you like for lunch today?" "Peanut butter and jelly sandwich," yelled Abby. "Yeah," exclaimed Brissa. "I want jelly with peanut butter," cried Carrie. "Okay, peanut butter and jelly all around," said Daniel. "How do you want your sandwiches cut?" Now, each of the girls wanted their sandwiches cut in a different way. Let's look and see how they wanted those sandwiches. As I read their responses, I want you to think about how each girl's sandwich will look when it's cut. Abby says, "Cut mine in 4 parts the square way. First up and down, then across." Brissa says, "Please cut mine in 4ths going up and down like stripes." Carrie said, "I'd like mine cut into quarters the diagonal way." Now let's see what their sandwiches look like, and I want you to see if what you thought they would look like is the same as the picture. So take just a few more seconds to think about these sandwiches. Okay, here's how they look. Is this how you thought the sandwiches would look? Think about how many parts you see in each sandwich. If we look at Abby's sandwich, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. Now when we look at Brissa's sandwich, we see 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles. Now looking at Carrie's sandwich, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles. Each of these parts is called a fourth because each of the sandwiches is cut into 4 pieces. Now let's think about how the fourths are the same in each sandwich and how they are different. So they're all the same because they're all 4 parts of the same size sandwich. If I stacked up Carrie, Brissa, and Abby's sandwiches right on top of each other, the whole sandwich would be the same size. All 3 of them would be the same size. That's what's the same. Now what's different is that each piece of their sandwiches is a different shape. Now, even though these sandwiches that started off as the same size, remember, they're the same size as a whole sandwich, even though they're cut into fourths that are different shapes, are they the same size? That's the really big question we're talking about today. Are they all the same size? Is this square? Is this the same amount of space inside this square as you see inside this rectangle? Do you see the same amount of space in this rectangle as you see in this triangle? What about the triangle and the square? That's what we're thinking about today. Now, I'm going to read you a little more of the story because after Daniel cuts the sandwiches and he brings them out to the girls, we're going to see what the girls think about these sandwiches. So listen to the story again. Daniel carried the sandwiches out to the girls and then went back into the house to get the milk. When he came back, the girls were all shouting at once, and none of them seemed very happy. "What's wrong?" said Daniel. "Didn't I cut your sandwiches the way you wanted?" Why do you think the girls are so upset? Let's find out. Abby says, "This isn't fair. My forests look smaller than Carrie's." Brissa says, "My forests are taller than yours, Abby, but Carrie's look bigger." Carrie says, "My forests are the biggest. That's why I asked you to cut them the diagonal way." Now we'll read a little more about what Daniel says to the girls after he hears what they think about their sandwiches. Daniel just smiled, even though the triplets were all wailing by then. He said, "Look, I'll tell you what. After lunch, I'll give you some square pieces of paper. You can fold them and cut them and check to see if you got a bad deal or not. How's that?" The girls nodded through their tears, ate their sandwiches, and then went to get the paper squares from Daniel. Now, we're going to do something really similar to try to figure out if all of our fourths are the same size, if they're the same amount of area. Because we're exploring this question in our own homes today, I don't have square pieces of paper that I can give to you. So we will explore the fourths of the sandwiches by moving around the shapes in Seesaw. So I'm going to show you what your work for Seesaw will look like today and how you can finish that and do some exploring. So this is what your template, what your assignment looks like today. And it says you're going to explore the different fourths of Abby, Brissa, and Carrie's sandwiches. You can move the shapes around to help you see if the different parts are equal. When you're done exploring, answer the questions below. Now, because we don't have paper, I made shapes for you to move. So you can take these shapes and move them around in Seesaw to see if they're all the same size and to see if all the parts are equal. So what you want to think about is, well, if our sandwiches are all the same size in the beginning, and I have 4 parts, if I have 4 parts of each sandwich, are they all going to be the same size? Can I stack up these 4 parts and see that they're exactly the same size? Can I stack up the 4 parts of this sandwich, of Carrie's sandwich, to see if they're all the same size? And if they're all the same size, does that mean that the triangle actually has the same amount of area as the rectangle? Does that mean that the square has the same amount of area as the rectangle and the triangle? That's a question for you to answer, for you to explore. Now, if you have any square pieces of paper at home that you can fold up and cut up, that would be a good thing for you to do if you can. But if you use a piece of notebook paper or a piece of copy paper, remember those papers are not squares. Something that is square, you can find some square Post-its if you have any. That might be something good that you can kind of explore. You could ask an adult at home if they can help you get a square piece of paper or a couple square pieces of paper so you could cut them up and see if these are the same. But if you don't have that at home, you have these shapes to move around. That's what they're for. Now, after you've made a decision on if you think the girls got a bad deal or a fair deal, I want you to answer in this first box. Do you think it's fair all their sandwiches are the same size? Why do you think that? Do you think the sandwiches aren't the same size? Why not? Your second question is saying that the fourths are different shapes, but are they the same size? How do you know? Are they all the same size? Do they have the same amount of area? Do they have different amounts of area? How do you know? That's why I want you to give your answer here. Now, you really need to remember to explain your thinking. That's the important part. It's not the most important part that you get the answer right. The most important part is that you tell me why you think that. Sometimes for a problem like this, you need to really explain your thinking and really try to understand why you feel that way. You can use the microphone to answer your questions by explaining your thinking. You can use the text button to type in what you're thinking, or you could use a drawing tool to write what you're thinking. Those are all choices for you. So get to work in Seesaw and move your shapes around to see if all of our sandwiches are equal, if the girls got a fair deal or not. See you soon.